Bharti Sharma is an environmentalist, social entrepreneur, and researcher. Passionate about sustainable development and ecological stewardship. She is the founder of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam PURA, a social enterprise inspired by Dr. Kalam's vision of bridging the urban-rural divide through sustainable, community-driven growth. A medalist physiotherapist from PGIMER, Chandigarh, and a fitness professional. She also founded Wellness India, a holistic health platform, an MBA graduate from IIM Bangalore and certified in business law from Renmin Business School, Beijing. Bharti currently consults for State Bank of India as AVP Business Strategy, while also partnering with Bajaj Finserv, Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Funds, and Creso Wealth Management. A SEBI-certified mutual fund distributor and Six Sigma professional, she uniquely blends finance and sustainability in her work. Her acclaimed research spans from electric vehicles as sustainable mobility to BRSR analysis of top BSE companies, alongside pioneering independent studies on cognitive and AI systems, including her published theory, Adaptive Sentience Loop Theory, ASLT, and Skepticism Operons for AI. In 2024, she launched Colloquial, a regional language app promoting linguistic diversity, certified in generative AI for business from IIT Bombay, and currently pursuing justice under Professor Michael Sandel at Harvard University. Bharati exemplifies lifelong interdisciplinary learning. A chess enthusiast, avid reader, and classical Indian dancer, she is also a devout nature lover, proudly calling herself a tree hugger at heart.
Hi everyone, this turtle is homeless, not because of nature, but because of us. I brought him all the way from the Nicobars, and Susie is heading to Haryana. Government says we cut your forest and plant another one 2,000 kilometers away. I told him, don't worry buddy, now even I am also in the same plight as you, transformed from a mainlander to a tribal pretty quick to make him comfy. Still he looked at me and said, hey lady, you don't even have a shell. On a Sunday in May 2017, I was cycling to my favorite 300-year-old banyan tree at a place Khamano in Punjab where I worked then, only to find the tree uprooted. The smell of fresh cut wood, silence where birds sang once, I couldn't sleep at night. Next morning, I went to survey the whole area, only to find that age-old trees, people, banyan, shisham, arjun, all gone. Only one 400-year-old banyan tree was left, a huge tree. I looked at it and thought that I need to do something. I searched and found out the National Highway Authority of India's project director's number and contacted him. On my follow-ups, he gave me the builder's contact number. Now, builder being a businessman after lots of excuses, they finally assigned a civil engineer to assess the site. When civil engineer came, he told me that a curvature was possible, but they couldn't change the plan just for one tree. Now, in the meantime, the locals whom I had engaged with rallied around the tree and they kept hugging the tree when the tree felling team came in the Chipko 1970 movement style. The tree felling team had to go back. This triggered the project director to visit the site, and on our insistence, he sanctioned the curvature. This tree is still alive today. This incident led to the founding of my social enterprise, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Pura, inspired by his book Target 3 Billion, which works in the area of sustainable development and conservation of nature and biodiversity through community engagement. And since then, I have become a fern tree hugger, and I'm often found dating trees in public places like this. In 2022, I came across a news piece in The Hindu, wherein I learned that 9.6 lakh trees gonna be cut down at the Great Nicobar Islands for a port project. I was not just shocked by the sheer numbers, but by the negligence shown by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and Wildlife Institute of India in providing the clearances. The biggest irony, compensatory plantation planned 2,000 kilometers away in the arid Aravalis of Haryana. Now, even this Aravali Safari project has been, stayed by the Supreme Court last month. When I further researched the projects, I came in touch with the research works of environmentalist Ashish Kothari sir and ecology researchers at IIT Bombay Sitara under Professor Pankaj Seksaria sir from the Great Nicobar timelines, and I learned that Great Nicobar project, though geopolitically important, has been pushed in as urban development with ports, townships, business hubs. But all this is coming at a huge ecological and social destruction, which cannot be overlooked. Now, key issues with the project are, the first one is deforestation of 130 square kilometers of forest land. 9.6 lakh trees gonna be cut down. And this is the largest tree logging approval in the history of our country. Imagine 130 square kilometers, an area larger than the whole UT of Chandigarh would be deforested. And Nicobar is the only carbon negative jewel of our country, home to pristine tropical rainforest. And when the environmental impact assessment for this unique rainforest was conducted, it was handed over to Vimta Labs, an unaccredited lab at that time, which was after the clearance, it was accredited just to tick the box. This lab admitted in its own report that it could not survey the interiors of the Great Nicobar forest due to the thickness. Then how could you give the clearance? Now, Nicobars is another thing. Coming on to our air quality. Right now, as I speak, somebody in Delhi would be inhaling the equivalent of 25 cigarettes per day. Delhi tops the charts of the world's worst AQI every year. The 5 most polluted cities in the world are in our country. With the largest population in the world, we need just more trees to stay alive. And we are cutting the few which are left now. Now coming on to compensatory afforestation. This photo I clicked in Haryana. 400 people trees jammed in a small patch of land. I've even seen 1,000 plus crammed in smaller patches of land than this. Practically, only 8 to 10 people trees can be planted in this much land space. Now, these are just planted by government on leased private lands, and they'll be cleared after 365 days. And if any longer, maybe 366 if it's a leap year. Now, these are no compensatory plantation. These are burial ground for saplings. No compensation is possible for a 200-year-old rainforest. Only solution is zero tolerance for further deforestation. And another pattern we need to see here, that tree felling is not partisan. Some of the projects where I engaged, 2016, Punjab, 96,000 trees fallen for an highway expansion under Shiromani Akali Dal BJP Alliance government. Only official number, guys. Lot of other projects where day in and day out the trees are being cut. Some latest ones, 2025, Kancha Gachibowli, 40,000 trees fall an IT hub were fallen under the Indian National Congress. And now, beyond lakhs, guys, 9.6 lakh trees, the largest tree logging approval in our country, they're gonna be cut down at the Great Nicobar Islands under Union Government BJP. Different places, different parties, same destruction. Systemic issue of weak ecological governance. Coming back to the Nicobars, the next big issue is the threat to the biodiversity at Galathea Bay. Now, Galathea Bay, Nicobar is a hub of myriad species of flora and fauna. Just to take 2 examples, take the Nicobar megaport, a unique shy bird who does not even incubate its own eggs with its own body heat, but buries them in the mulch and lets the earth do its job. It's a vulnerable species residing in our country at Nicobars. The Nicobar megaport does not ask any help from us. It just needs its own breathing space. Now coming on to the next, the giant, the endangered leatherback turtles. Every adult weighing 500 kgs, unlike my Susie, who is a baby green turtle. But they and all the rest at the Galathea Bay come for nesting and breeding there in our country. During the ecological impact assessment, the sea turtle surveys were done only 6 days in the month of April, while the leatherback turtles come to breed at the Galathea Bay from November to March. Now, should the turtles schedule their breeding as per the human surveys? And we call it clearance. Due to the tsunami and climate change, these all species are already stretched. And now at bulldozers, ports, power plants. This is no marginal shock, guys. This is extinction level shock for the species. And what about the humans who live on the islands? Harmony with nature is easier said than done. There are reports of repeated crocodile attacks on the humans at the Nicobars. And are the crocodiles to be blamed for this? No. We encroach their territory and then call them a threat? Now, coming back to the Nicobars, the next big issue is the displacement of indigenous tribes. Take, for example, the Shonpins. Only 300 of them are left. Studies show that if Shonpins come in contact with the mainstream society, they risk falling sick and their chances of survival are slim. Next is the Nicobaris, like me, who are already stretched after the 2004 tsunami. Neither the Shonpins nor the Nicobaris have been properly consulted for the Great Nicobar project. Gram Sabha consents have been bypassed, violating the Forest Rights Act. You call it development when the very people who belong to the land are erased? This is no development. This is displacement. The next big issue is the lack of thorough impact assessment, maybe environmental, ecological, social. I've told numerous, loopholes in the clearances till now. One of the biggest lacuna, the denotification of the Galathea Bay was done even before the formal project for the Great Nicobar Island was floated. The denotification of Galathea Bay was done by Wildlife Institute of India and National Board for Wildlife in January 2021. While the pre-feasibility report by the Niti Aayog consultant Econ Private Limited just came in March 2021. Sheer absurdity, guys. Moving on to the most dangerous aspect, the tsunami, the seismic risk in the Bay of Bengal. Now, the Nicobar was the worst hit in the 2004 tsunami. Why? Because it lies on the tectonic fault lines, wherein the Indian plate dives below the Burma plate. Now, imagine a carpet pressed under a door. That is the kind of tension on which Nicobar rests. So there is vertical thrusting fault and there is horizontal sliver fault. So both the vertical and the horizontal forces are in work all the time, leading to an oblique form, oblique subduction. In this case, if there is an undersea quake, the seabed displaces, the water rises and the island sinks. This is no theory. The famous lighthouse at the Nicobars, which was on land before tsunami, is now in water and you can go and check. So what is the solution? The prevention is biological fortification. The living interconnected networks of coral reefs offshore, mycorrhizal fungi underground, and the age-old roots of trees, which provide resilience to the island during such natural calamities. So what do we need? We need is development innovation. 100% sensitivity to the ecology at the Nicobars with a defense-first approach. Remember, Nicobar is geopolitically, strategically important. So, a defense-first approach, not an industry-first approach. A defense-first ecology care model is the only sustainable model for the development of the Great Nicobar Islands. Yet, the irony, out of the 166 square kilometer land proposed for the Great Nicobar Islands, only 7.85% of the land is marked for the defense as per the expert appraisal committee of the government, which can now be maximum extended to 12% roughly. Now, geopolitical is so important, such a strategy, that is because there is this political situation between India and China of string of pearls strategy versus India's necklace of diamonds strategies, wherein both the countries occupy islands around the Indian Ocean region. So in this case, we need our easternmost diamond, INS Baz, which is the nearest point to Malacca Strait. And with this kind of commercial development, reckless commercial development, does that mean that our defense forces lose their only forward base, INS Baz, due to commercial development in the next tsunami? Coming on to the commercial viability. Now we did a data analysis with a study from M. Rajshekharan from the Frontline on a Chennai-based, fortnightly news magazine, wherein with these international level assumptions and with the best case at lowest rate and as per government sources, if the port reaches the maximum utility of 16 million 20 equivalent unit by 2059, still the corporate will only get a loss of more than 4,000 crore every year. Break even impossible. This much money could be used to educate more than 19 lakh children every year. And this is also not the case which is going to happen. The corporates know the risk. They are averse to invest. They only want to invest in either the construction part or the tree logging part, which can bring immediate cash due to sale of wood. So, the Niti Aayog consultant, Econ Private Limited, has suggested a government subsidized plan wherein 14,000 crore would be invested through viability cap funding under a special purpose vehicle by the government of India, and the private concessionaire will only invest 4,000 crores. Even in this case, the corporate will only earn 82 crore meager against a hefty 4,000 crore investment. Net return negligible. Proponents say jobs, foreign exchange savings. But why don't they learn from the global failed Andaman tourism and the Hambantota debt-ridden port at Sri Lanka, which put the whole Sri Lankan crisis of debt? These all show that mega infrastructure projects at fragile islands rarely deliver gains, while the threat to the biodiversity, the destruction, is irreversible. Numerous ecologists, environmentalist researchers have been raising these concerns to the government of India for years now, since the inception of this project. Global organizations like Survival International have also taken up these issues with the government of India for the ecology of the Nicobars, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We at our levels have been advocating for the reassessment of the Great Nicobar project through steps which have been going on for a year now, with CP Graham cases, writing to the President of India, Change.org petition, awareness campaigns and talks. Why can't Nicobar become a defense ecology coexistence zone, which even the other countries can copy? No, we need to understand that we are at a fragile point in our existence. Any development now has to take into consideration the protection of our environment and thereby ourselves. Now, as citizens, if you feel helpless to save the forest, at least one thing you can do is stand between the forest and the axe. And if you don't do it now, and in future due to these commercial developments, your office is at the Nicobars maybe, tsunami hits. The situation, the reality can be something like this. Office in water. Jokes apart, guys, the real situation will be something like this. Okay, friends, time to take the turtle to Haryana. The journey from Nicobars to Haryana is long, but the journey from awareness to action is one step. Change won't come from governments alone. Next Chipko won't be a movement. It would be a mindset. Thank you.